Hello, my name is Gaetano. I'm your personal immigration mentor for Canada. With 38 years of immigration experience, while employed with the Canadian federal government, I have reinvented myself for the other side of the immigration counter to help you craft a winning immigration application. Through these series of videos, I will talk about the whys, whats, don'ts, and do's, and whens and hows of Canadian immigration. Speaking about do's and don'ts, I remember in 1991, while posted as a border officer between Canada and the United States of America, every day we had hundreds of people crossing into Canada. One of my roles as the border officer was to stop inadmissible people from coming into the country. I recall one day this young couple approached my booth looking to enter Canada. While reviewing their documents, it appeared they were all in order, but when asked a number of extra questions, the young man began to give evasive answers. So I referred the couple to the immigration office for a follow-up, in-depth interview. Once in the immigration office, the officer conducted a data bank search and identified the traveler as having a criminal record in the USA dating back a few years. After questioning the traveler, it was determined that the criminal conviction was due to a drunk driving conviction prior to the traveler being married and had neglected to tell me, the primary officer, or conveniently forgot. This mistake cost the couple their entry into Canada as well as the funds already paid for their vacation. The couple would not be allowed entry into Canada and were allowed to return to the USA. The reason for refusal? Inadmissible into Canada due to a criminal conviction. The point of this example is to show you that the trouble you get into as a young person will come back to bite you in the future. Today's episode is dedicated to common mistakes when it comes to Canadian immigration. Every immigration process begins with an application, as we all know. We will not talk about the obvious mistakes. Those you can find everywhere on the internet. For example, not sending the correct size photos, not providing all the required documentation, failing to provide a cover letter, and many others. Of course, these are all serious errors that will get your application refused, but we will look at others just as important. A Canadian permanent residency application can be refused due to a lot of reasons, and here are a few of them. Criminality. As the story I mentioned earlier, any criminal conviction will have an impact whether your application gets approved or rejected. I would always advise you to be honest about your criminal past. Second, misrepresentation. This is quite serious as it could lead directly to the inadmissibility of the applicant. There are two types of misrepresentation. They are material and non-material. Let's take a closer look at these. Material misrepresentation refers to your documents. If you provide false documents, or if you neglect to declare that you had previous visa application refusals in any country, or misrepresented yourself regarding your marriage status, your family members, or a job experience, that can all be reasons for refusal. When it comes to non-material misrepresentation, these are unintentional errors, indicating you are married or single when in fact you are widowed, not signing the application, reversing the month and date of birth of your application. You may think these are silly, but in fact these are reasons for refusals. Inaccurate documentations. Health. Every applicant is required to undergo a medical examination certified and approved by the medical officers in Canada or in some cases abroad. In case of severe illness or any results that will show that your ailment will become a burden on the Canadian healthcare system, the application may get rejected. Deadlines. Now, deadlines surround us in our everyday lives. Credit card payment deadlines, project deadlines, renewal of driver's license, and so on. Submitting of an immigration application is no different. So you need to know exactly what documents you are required to provide and when exactly to submit them. Otherwise, your application might get rejected. Eligibility. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Canada offers different unique immigration programs. Each program has its own eligibility criteria that you have to meet prior to proceeding. For example, your age, language requirements, education, work experience. If one of these requirements is not met, this will lead to a rejected application. Documents. Every applicant receives a detailed checklist of documents that they are required to gather prior to applying. If one single document is missing, the file is considered incomplete. Therefore, you guessed it, rejected. Speaking about this, did you know that a single file can have more than 500 pages? Also remember, you aren't the only applicant. Along with your application, there are probably hundreds of others who submitted their applications. So keep in mind that at the end of the day, whoever is going to look over your application is a human being, like you and me. They don't know you, they don't know your story, so make your application tell the story, your story. Make it easy for the immigration officer to review your documents in order to make a favorable decision. Be organized so they can process your application quicker. Triple check your application before submitting it from all angles. Remember the couple that were refused entry into Canada? Think how smooth their entry would have been had they been prepared ahead of time and were able to get a pardon prior to getting to the border. So that's it for this episode. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date, and don't forget to follow Vizier Group on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. And remember, the only impossible journey is the one you never begin. See you next time.